All right, so we spent the last couple of days doing a little bit of work out here on the Camaro. The weather has been kind of intermittent, and unfortunately we had a breakdown on my truck. So the filming has been intermittent, but the work hasn't stopped. So I'm going to recap just quickly over two different areas where we've been working on the car. The first one, the biggest one, is the fuel system. We were able to basically, for the most part, finish the fuel system completely. As far as making the lines, we were waiting on the tank to show up. The tank showed up. We sourced that from Rock Solid Motorsports. And this is the cell here. It's a cell, 14-gallon cell, and it has an integrated battery tray alongside of it. It's all handmade out of aluminum. It's thick stuff, so it's made to take a beating. The nice big fill cap that they give you is also billet. So if I open that up, I'll bring you in close here and kind of show you what you can see inside. I don't have a lot, but there is foam sections in there to control the fuel slosh. These foam sections that are in here allow fuel to flow through them, but they don't allow the fuel to slosh inside of there. So it's like that from side to side and end to end. The sending unit that's here, this will allow us to run any kind of fuel gauge. This is your standard GM sending unit. I want to say this is a 90 ohm 0 to full, but I'm not sure. I do have the paperwork with it. I haven't gone through it yet because we're not on the wiring stage, but I do have the integrated sending unit in the cell. Let me mount this light back up here. All right, so then some of the other features on this thing, they do incorporate a rollover valve that gives you a -8 AN fitting. So if you want to pipe that into a reservoir, catch can, or even outside the car, you can do that. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make a down tube to be able to go outside of the vehicle. So if we were to roll this car over and it were to leak, anything that doesn't get caught by the check valve will dump outside of the vehicle and not inside the cabin. This on top is the -8 return line that I requested that they put in. We are running a return style regulator on this system, and I just have the tank mocked in here. I have everything complete with the exception of actually mounting the cell. And I'm at the point where I'm ready to do that. I'm just not quite sure how I'm going to execute it yet. And I'll kind of get into that in a minute. But for all intents and purposes, it works out in our favor for making the video. So this is the return line. And then down here on the back side, I'm going to show it in the car and I'll show it when I pull the cell out. Look straight down there. That's the feed, and I don't have that fitting screwed all the way on, but that is the feed line, and there is a sump in the bottom of this. So now I'll go ahead and lift this cell out, since it's going to have to come back out anyway. I've just kind of got this set in place. Turn it back on real quick. Nice and light. Let me just set this out of the way. All right, now walk over here. Just kind of show this side here. So here's the back side of the cell that you couldn't see in the car. Okay, and you can see how they've sumped this, and they've put that -10 right at the bottom of the sump. So you're going to get every ounce of fuel out of that tank, and it is positioned to the rear. So under acceleration, all the fuel is going to want to come back to this point anyway. So we shouldn't have any starvation issues. And that's a -10 feed. All right, we'll come back around. Now underneath the cell is the rest of our system in here. So here's the feed line. Here's our -10 that comes out of that sump. It comes into our pre-filter. The pre-filter is a 100 micron filter. This is just for, we are running race fuel in this, but it is gasoline. We're not running methanol or ethanol or anything, alcohol. It continues through into the A1000 aeromotive pump and then through the post filter. So this is the 10 micron that catches anything that may have gone through the system and will catch it before it makes its way through the rest of the system. So then we're -10. There's two bulkhead fittings here where we've piped them through the body of the car. The dash 10, and then you can see the dash 8 return up above. And all of this hose and fittings is all Russell. We decided to go with Russell. It's kind of middle of the road. Most of the fittings that I got are their full flow fittings, so there's no neck down or restriction in anything. The standoffs on these are really big. I like that. So they seem like a really good quality fitting. I know that they were bought out, that Russell doesn't own it anymore. I want to say it's owned by Holley or Edelbrock or one of the two, but at the end of the day, this stuff is the cloth braided. This is rated to 250 PSI, and it does have metal sheathing inside of the cloth. It just makes it a lot more flexible, a lot easier to work with, and plus I like the fact that it's not all silver. So we went ahead and we got all this stuff mounted in here. We passed these through, and the fuel line going through underneath just has, on the other side of the bulkhead, a 90-degree fitting. It runs up into this area where the stock gas tank would have been under the car. That is no longer there. And it kind of is tied up along here and follows this side all the way back to the front. And so we'll go up to the front and I'll be able to show you guys what we've done. Those fuel lines, as they pass under the car, is all one continuous piece. We don't have any joints or unions or breaks or anything like that in there. So everything, here's the feed line and the return line, both right here. They come up behind the engine and then they pass down underneath the coil. The feed comes right into the front. That's this right here where this 90 is. Comes right into the regulator. We do have a gauge here, so we can monitor the actual flowing fuel pressure at the regulator and make sure that we're getting exactly what we want at the carb. The two outlets are one on each side, and these are dash 6. I tried to find everything to try and find something with two dash 8 outlets, and there's not much out there. So we went with this one because we are running a single carburetor. Two dash 6 lines should be sufficient for what we're doing for now. I may end up changing this regulator out at a later time, but for right now I think it'll work for us, and we are in a bit of a time crunch. It's aeromotive as well, and it does have a boost reference port, so if we did have any kind of supercharger or turbo or anything, we could plumb a vacuum line to this, a boost line, and then it'll adjust our fuel pressure for us. The adjustment's right here on top, nice and easy to get to, and then the return comes out of the bottom. There's a 90-degree fitting that comes out of there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see it. It comes out of there, is at 90. It runs back up and it runs back to the tank, which you saw. So once we come out of there, my two dash 6 lines are right here, and I've got some P-clamps and things that we're going to actually install. The zip ties are somewhat temporary, but we wanted to get all the lengths figured out and get all the routing figured out, and we've pretty much done that. We're going to utilize the strut tower bolt here to be able to keep these things in place so they're not moving around and bouncing around. And then I managed to actually fit the strut tower brace back in the car, believe it or not, even with the 540. It's close, but it does fit in there. So I use that strut tower brace to kind of give me a pathway to run these lines. Try and keep them up off the engine so there's not the risk of anything vibrating. These are going to rotate up and forward, and then I've got one side, each outlet is going to each side of the carburetor there, and that'll fill our bowls up. So we should be in good shape. We're going to start off probably at 7.5 pounds of fuel pressure, and we'll work from there. We are running this 540 naturally aspirated for the time being, so there isn't going to be any kind of nitrous or power adder that we need to worry about adjusting fuel pressure up for. So for the time being, that is the entire fuel system. If we find a different regulator, then I may change the two dash 6 lines to dash 8s. That would be ideal. And I already have carb fittings for it, so I just need to find the right regulator to use. Or, you know, I really don't want to have to run a dash 10 into a Y and then two regulators, but if I really had to, I would. But this just seemed like the easiest, quickest way to get us going. So that's what we've done for now. So that's the fuel system. That'll wrap us up on that. Then the other thing that we've done is wheels and tires. So we were waiting on some rear end pieces. Those have come in, and we're about to get started on working on that stuff now that the fuel system is done. Get this tank mounted, and then the rear end, the rear chassis and suspension components are all going to get done. That's all under the car right now here in front of me. So we are going to have a different video for that, but that's coming. And then we did get the wheels and tires done, so we'll go ahead. I got them on the other side of the car. So why don't you follow me and we'll just show them that real quick before we wrap this up. We'll keep this one fairly quick. So we decided, there's not much room over here, is there? Of course, I got nothing magnetic. I guess I can use the El Camino. All right. This is what we decided to go with. These are a 15 by 12 Billet Specialties Winlight double bead lock. And this is what the holdup was, is because they were building these. So on this, we decided to go with the Mickey Thompson ET Street Radial Pros. And this is a 275 60/15, believe it or not. It does fit on a 12-inch rim. It does stretch the sidewall a little bit, but for what we're trying to do, I wanted to do that on purpose. It's going to help with potential tire shake issues. But I'm really excited to see what these radials are going to do on this car instead of running that mushy bias ply slick in the back. So that's what we decided to go with. Here's the back side. Same bead lock. And then get in close, Annie, and show the machine work on that hub inside. Like, they've lightened as much as they possibly can. They've taken the material out in here all the way down, and then you can see the tooling marks where they've lightened it in between the axle flange. So it's pretty impressive. I'm very, very happy. This is on a 6.5-inch backspace. It's the most you can possibly get. I wish they had a 7.5 option. I would have ordered that. The rear end is probably going to have to be narrowed a total of almost 3 inches to be able to run these on the car without messing with the fenders, but we're going to cross that bridge when we get there. I do have it narrowed, but I don't have it narrowed that much, so we're going to see what happens. For the fronts, we did their ET front radial. Kind of get a look at the tread. I mean, it's just like the bias ply stuff for the most part, but this has got a nice deep groove in each center, and then the small ones on each side. And then these are the Comp series. These are the Comp 5s. They look just like a Winlight, but it is the Comp series. And the only difference between those is the Comp series is a lot lighter. And same thing, they've taken as much material out in places that they possibly can without sacrificing the integrity of the wheel. And this is a 17 by 4.5 with that ET Street radial front, like I said. So matches up pretty nice. I like it. They're super light. I mean, these front ones, I don't even think they're even 20 pounds. I think they're probably 15, 17 pounds. I mean, they're really light. The back ones, for being as big as they are pretty light too. I couldn't guess a weight, and I don't have a scale, but I know they're a lot lighter than the Race Stars that are on the car right now. Those are a 15 by 10 forged aluminum wheel, and those are heavier than these 15 by 12s are with these radials on them. The other nice thing about the radials is they're tubeless. They're not like a bias ply. They're not going to leak down. You don't have to run tubes with them. You can actually balance them if you really wanted to. But yeah, it's pretty sweet. I'm very excited about the wheels. I waited a long time for those. So that's going to pretty much do it for this video. Let's walk back up here in the front. And we'll give a little preview here of some of the rear end stuff. Right here. Oh. So, everybody knows quick performance. This is the center section. The housing is here. It's their Fab 9. It's got all the bracing and gusseting and everything you could possibly want. I'm purposely not going to dig it all out, but there's the anti-roll bar and the chassis components. The rear control arms are there. The Panhard bar is there. All of that is Midwest chassis. And then these are my axles. So I'm going to cover all this in detail as we put things together. But for right now, I figure I'll just give you a sneak peek of what we're getting ready to start on. So I'm pretty excited. All right, so that's going to do it. I don't think that there's really anything else I need to say about the fuel system. It's a pretty self-explanatory deal. We stuck with Aeromotive for just about everything. The only thing that we didn't was the fittings and the hoses. And like I said, we tried to stick with one particular brand. If I do anything different in the future regarding the fuel system, if I do change like to those Dash 8s, I think going forward, I'm going to look into Red Horse. I've heard a lot of things about them. As far as I can tell, they make a really good quality product, and I'd be really interested to try their stuff. But for the time frame that I had and the availability, I went with Russell. It was a mail order right out of Summit. I had it within a couple of days, and we were able to knock this work out pretty quick. So like I said, we're on a time crunch. As of the date right now, filming this video is the 1st of March, and we're looking for Memorial Day weekend to be competitive, so we have a lot of work to do. The cage is the next step, along with the rear chassis suspension and brakes. Brakes are in that box right there, and that is TBMs to match the front. So again, more content coming. Thank you for watching. We appreciate it.